Hey guys, welcome to Grit Branded. Hanging out with Jordan Jo Hollabaugh.
Hollabaugh.
Got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Awesome. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. So tell people what you do or what you're known for or not known for. Or...
Honestly, I do a little bit of everything. First proclaimed thing that I love to do is breakaway rope. Professional breakaway roper. Travel around the world. Been to the National Finals twice. Won the average the first year they ever had breakaway at Globe Life Field in Texas. So that was fun.
I remember that.
And I also have a podcast called In the Loop. And we get to talk all things rodeo and work and play and everything in between. And I also have a marketing business. So I started that when I was in high school, and it's just kind of stuck with me, and have a lot of great clients, build some websites, do some marketing. And yeah.
That's family?
Family. I'm married to Raymond Hollabaugh. He is older than me. If anybody, he's not my dad. It's my husband.
I love that.
So we've been married for 4 years now. We've been together for about 15. Best friend, get to do life with him, and we rope together every day. And he goes with me and rodeos with me. And no kids. We have two little dogs, a couple donkeys, lots of horses.
What kind of dogs?
I've got a mutt, a Cheyenne.
A Cheyenne?
A Cheyenne. His name is Junior. And we've got a border collie named Lita.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a very interesting life.
Yeah, we like to spice it up, and not the same thing once every day. We do something different all the time, and keeps us pretty busy.
So you're behind the mic on the other side of the mic, I guess to say. However that what sounds or hears. But how's it? I mean, have you done other podcasts outside of your own?
Yeah, I love to do other podcasts. You know, for me, I started my podcast because I wanted to talk and learn about other people. Storytelling is huge for me, and traveling around the world and rodeoing. I met so many different people that we see have success in the arena, but we don't really know how they got there or what their road was, and it's all different.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what motivated me to start doing podcasting. And then going on other people's shows, just a privilege, because it's kind of scary for me being on the other side of the mic, because when I'm on the podcast and it's my show, I know what I'm going to ask you, right? So I'm in control. Whereas right now, I'm not in control, and so I'm like, what is he going to ask me, and what am I going to say? So that's been fun. But yeah, I get to go and do, and it's a privilege to be on other people's and talk to them and learn about them too.
Isn't it cool though? And what I've learned since I've done this, I started mine for similar reasons, but I did it because people can learn about me, because I'm not, a lot of my customers don't get to meet me as much as they used to. So I kind of want to get my personality out there and have stories that are similar to mine or what have you. But it's cool hearing some of the stories that you would never think you would hear from somebody, or it would be their story. Yeah. And that's what the coolest part about it is. I get so intertwined in it sometimes. I'm like, okay, we're here for 2 hours. Yeah. You know, but it's because I never knew you know. So is there any particular person that you just dove into and is like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much?
You know, I think everybody's just a little bit different. Some of the guys that, you know, I feel like guys are a lot more open than girls, right? Because we struggle with perfectionism, even though we are perfect. They're a lot more closed off, I think, than guys are, where it's been so surreal to me and challenged me as a person too to be more vulnerable and true. But these guys will come on there and world champions, or not even just in the arena, outside of the arena, have accomplished several things, and they'll be like, man, I struggle with this, or I overcame that, or you know, hey, I battled this for a long time. Or, you know, Tilden Hooper came on the show the other day, and he was like, I've been to the finals, I think it was at that time, you know, the 10th time or something like that, and he's like, I still have doubt. I'm like, wait, what, you doubt yourself? You know, and Tim O'Connell, 3-time world champion, he came on there and said he didn't like who he was the first time he won the gold buckle. I'm like, you what? You know, I mean, just things that I think we idolize these people and we think that they are perfect and they don't have any faults or they don't have any struggles, and that's just not the case. Yeah. So it's been neat to me to see that they're human behind the cowboy hat or the buckle or whatever you want to say, and they'll talk about it, because that's, to me, it's like all about making a difference, right? Because when I was a young girl, I don't feel like a lot of people had the confidence or the courage to talk about some of the hard things. And for me, I'm like, that would help me. Like, if I know that you struggle too, or you don't have confidence, or you have doubt, or, you fight your head too, and you still want to go buckle, or you still have made the finals this many times, it's pretty impressive to me. So I don't know that one person really sticks out, but just the individual parts of their stories, that's been pretty fun.
I like it that we share the same concept of getting a story out there for the person that might need to hear it. I'm a big girl power type of guy. I love watching girls succeed. I have 2 twin daughters that are 18, little rattlesnakes.
I'm sorry.
But I love watching girls do their thing, not because they're a female, just because they're, I grew up with single moms. Like knowing the struggles they had when I was growing up and watching how they can be empowered in the world we live in now, if they'll work hard and do the same things that a man has to do, that, it kind of equals out a little more. But I like watching that. So I'm a big fan of that. So I like hearing the stories of the underdogs, or other things, and getting it out there where other females or males can hear, hey, this is how this works if you're raising a daughter, or if you're having struggles of your own. You kind of say, oh, well, that guy, really? That person had those struggles, or that person had this growing up and still accomplished that? To me, we're putting that platform out there where they can actually know this, and it's real. This is no rehearsed. There's nothing like that. So it's real in front of them. That when we're telling stories, you're going to hear some stuff that you think you would never hear anywhere else. You go on the TV and they do an interview, they're not hearing none of this. That's what I love about a podcast, is you can go through and get more out of people.
Well, and I think Pam Minnick, one of the things that she told me that stuck with me, she said, well, let me back up a little bit. She interviewed us the first year they had National Finals Breakaway. And and she asked every one of us a question on stage. And so when I got up there, she's like, what do you feel about, finally breaking through and making the National Finals Breakaway? And my answer was, I feel like we are breaking through glass ceilings. And at that point I did, and that's the perspective that I saw it from. So then after that, she pulled me aside and she said, hey, don't ever say that again. And I said, why? And she said, I've never walked into a room thinking I was a woman in a man's world. I thought I was just like them. I sat down just like them, talked just like them, and put myself in that position. And she said, there's nothing they can do that I can't or won't. And so she said, don't ever think that you're breaking through glass ceilings. She's like, earn your right to be there.
Yeah.
And so that really just changed my perspective, right? Because it went from me like fighting for something, like, versus, acting like I belonged there, or how do I fit here? Where is my place at the table? So that helped me a lot. And just like you were talking about your daughters too, I'm sure you've raised them to think there's nothing that they can't do.
Yeah.
And so I think just that perspective and the different people that give back to us constantly in the industry is pretty cool.
I had a lot of help from my ex-wife with the girls, but what was cool is I've always liked a kid that had all the horsepower but didn't have any brakes. And that's them. As I saw them growing up and watching them play basketball and do all the things, or we're working cows out in the pasture, I've had to dial them back a little bit and say, listen, you can't just, men are scared of you, boys are scared of you. Like, you got your own brothers that are 6'3" and 6'5" are scared of you. Like, you still got to have your respect in your space. Just because you're tough and you can handle anything, you still have to know to hold your tongue. Hold your spot, not bully your way through everything, because then you start losing your seat quicker because there's another girl behind you that knows how to do that.
Yeah.
So, that's been a tough thing, because I'm so proud of them in some aspects. I'm like, oh, God. But in the other side, I was like, okay, that's too much. So when your mom calls me and you made your boyfriend cry, that's bad.
Reel it in just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So where are you from?
Originally from Pueblo, Colorado. Born and raised there, lived there for 18 years, and then wanted to come and college rodeo at the South Texas region, and which it's split now. It's 2 regions, but at that time it was the biggest rodeo region there was. My dad and my mom are both engineers, and my dad was like, you're going to go to a 4-year university. And I thought it would have been much easier just to go to a 2-year and stay home and homeschool and do what I wanted, but he made me leave, which I hated him for at the time. But now I'm thankful that he made me go. But I went to West Texas A&M because it was between there and Texas Tech, because they were closest to Pueblo. And so I went to West Texas A&M and rodeoed for 5 years, got my undergrad, got my master's. And it was a fun journey. Learned a lot. When I was young, I team roped a bunch. I didn't rodeo just a whole bunch. We focused on the U.S. team ropings, and my family and I did that together. And so I had to learn a lot going from Colorado to Texas. Got my butt kicked a lot in rodeo and in team roping too, because being a girl and trying to get a partner at the college rodeos was really tough. Nobody wants to rope with a girl which was different for me because I was one of the first girls that was a number 6 header. And so I was like, I thought I was kind of a bad cat, and nobody wanted to rope with me at the rodeos. And I was like very offended, which they shouldn't have, because I didn't reach, right? I was an average roper and I won a lot at the U.S. team ropings, but I wasn't a rodeo run kind of person. So I had to learn a lot, get my butt kicked a lot. Yeah. It was an adventure.
What did you study in college?
So I did marketing as my undergrad, and then I did business administration for my master's.
Okay. So you probably use a lot of that now.
Yeah, kind of. I think I just BS'd my way through college. Marketing changes so much so fast. I don't know that even the material we learned was something that I utilized. But I think for me, it was just like meeting all of those people and creating those connections. We had to do a lot of like mock trials, mock interviews, go out. We worked with some companies in college and did their marketing for them. So I had to learn how to build those relationships and shake hands, look people in the eye, and talk to them, which, my parents both being entrepreneurs as we grew up helped us a lot there. And I felt like I had to kind of do that already. And so just doing more of that in college and just building those relationships, I think is what I got out of it the most.
So what advice would you have for somebody that is pursuing a marketing degree? Because I feel like it evolves every day, how it changes and all that. But what are the basics you think they would get from going to college for it, outside of getting relationships and that kind of stuff?
I would say if you want to pursue a degree or a career in marketing, I would get a job in marketing. I was able to get a job and get hired right out of college. And I thought, I got my master's and they told us, like, you're going to make, $75,000, $100,000 first year. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I go to my first job interview, and then I did a good interview, and the guy's like, what work experience do you have in marketing? And I said, well, I built my mom's website. And he's like, and? I'm like, I built my mom's website, And he's like, so you don't have any work experience? And I was like, no, sir. And so he said, okay, $10 an hour. And I was like, just took the breath out of me. And I'm like, $10 an hour? They said I was going to make $75,000 a year. So I did a lot of grunt work for 2 years and learned everything from that. But I would say get a job, because that's where I learned it all. That's where I learned the actual, applications and the principles. At school, I feel like to me, school is an environment where you go and you commit to doing something and you follow through and you finish it. It's not so much of a real world environment to where you have to actually practice it. And if you don't do it right, you're not going to make money. Right. You're going to lose money. And that's, then what? So I feel like a lot of the then what's come from actually working from somebody or for somebody and learning. And so I would say get a job doing what you think you want to do, and figure out if that's what you want to do. Because a lot of people, I think, get jobs and then they're like, I don't really like this. I fit better here, or I like that better. Or they love it and they dive all in. So I would say get a job doing what you think you want to do. And then there's so many different avenues in school that you can change and do. But I'd say get a job and then ask questions.
I agree with that. My son wasted some money going to engineering school. He went for a semester and he's like, Dad, I hate sitting behind a computer. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's the first thing you should have known. He worked for me in my business, but I should have made him work during the summer, at a engineering firm of some sort.
My dad wanted me to go to the School of Mines. And so when I was in high school, I skipped a grade and went up a grade. And so I graduated early. But when I was a senior, I was in college courses in trigonometry and stuff like that for math, because my dad did math and he's brilliant at it. I couldn't tell you how to do any of that stuff. I literally just memorized what it looked like to do that trigonometry application and tried to memorize it till I did the test. And I don't know how I got through there, but I did. I am terrible at math. But my dad wanted me to do math, right? So I figured it out. But at that time I was like, Dad, I don't like doing this. I like talking to people. I like telling stories. And he's like, well, you do whatever you want. And I'm like, well, I wish you would have told me that sooner.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in math. But, just trying to figure out what you want. And, I think that people tell you all the time, you hear like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, I want to do whatever I want to do. It changes for me all the time. And I feel like we change in seasons, right? And a lot of us are strong-minded leaders. And I think once you accomplish something and you're good at it and you succeed at it, it's like, okay, what's next? So I don't think you have to have just one path.
Well, going to school for marketing and now doing marketing stuff for people or your clients. This is one thing I've thought about marketing as market director sitting right in front of me listening to all this. But, I think the way I value the marketing department is they're basically your head coach, offensive coach. If you're putting an analogy towards a similarity of somebody, what they recognize as football, probably the easiest. So they're there to lead the charge to get the people in the door. If that's not working, the chemistry's not working for the product you're selling, it's kind of, I think people just think they're going to get a marketing job and that's just what's going to be. You got to dynamically move around all the time and change thought, do what the next person's not doing, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just a walk in the door and you're going to have a job for the rest of your life. You're kind of on the chopping block all the time, even as a company, because it's a dollars being spent to make you money, and when you value that stuff, you have to look at, is that really getting my dollar for what decision making is going on or what? So I think that's a good thing for kids to hear, because I hear a lot of people when we do these college shows or stuff with the horse shows and stuff, and that's a big thing. A lot of them say marketing. So I like, you really know what marketing entails. Like you say, go get a job doing it while you're going to school, or to some degree. I think it helps people learn that part of it.
And I think too, like marketing, to me, the biggest lesson that I've learned in it, I've made a lot of mistakes. And it's people don't buy things, people buy from people. And who can tell that story? I've went into marketing just like I've went into rodeo. Like, okay, each client is different. Each business is different. And why would you buy, like, why would I want to use Rafter P Construction? People follow people. Steve Jobs, right, with the iPhone. Is the iPhone really any different than the Android? We think it is.
Right.
Why do we think it is? Because he's made us feel like it's in tune with us. He sold us that product. It's the current phase. It's whatever. You can model, any different company you want. But to me, it's each company is different. Each client is different. I think a lot of people think marketing because they think they can do it from anywhere. That, to me, being an entrepreneur and having a job that you don't have an 8 to 5 is harder than having an 8 to 5 job, because you have to be so much more disciplined to sit down. When you could be outside roping, you're gonna have to sit down and you're gonna have to block out your time. And does Brad need me to do this? Does Lauren need me to do that? I mean, you have to be so diligent and disciplined with your time as an entrepreneur. I think people think marketing because they could take it on doing their computer for anywhere. Well, do you have the discipline to do that?
Right.
Are you going to be committed? Are you going to find a way? Are you going to put your clients first? They don't think about any of that stuff.
No, and they think, oh, well, yeah, I can make time to do that. Then they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. All the things start clouding that space. Or I did terrible run on my roping or what have you, and they eat them alive. So they spend a day pouting when they should have been working. Like those kind of things. They don't think about. I don't believe. But what's something about you that nobody would ever think you do involved in?
I'm pretty much a nerd.
A nerd?
Yeah. Like, I like to read. Like, in my house is full of books. My husband's like, why are you reading? I'm like, I just love to read. When I was in 5th grade, we had this teacher named Mr. Shuey, and we had a readathon every year. And you would literally get to stay in the library that night and read, and whoever fell asleep, they painted on your face. And I won't ever forget it, but it was an experience I had, and it just kind of introduced the love to learn for me. So I'm a huge nerd. I love to learn. A lot of my friends call me Sheldon because I'm always asking a million different questions, and sometimes my brain doesn't really, connect like it should, and a lot of stuff goes over the top of my head. Common sense is probably not something I've got a whole lot of, but I'm working on it. So yeah.
What's your favorite thing to read about, or just anything?
I just like to learn, any different thing, like whatever in my life. Like a lot of the stuff I'm reading right now is on the psychology of our minds and how our minds truly work and how we can use them to work for us. That's so intriguing to me to know, like, we're people of pattern, we're people of habit, and we really do have control over that and harnessing that. And that's kind of where I'm at in this season. But, just any type of learning. I love history. I love fiction, nonfiction. I mean, just anything that I can learn and try to add to my toolkit. That's where I'm at.
Do you feel like as you've gotten older that you're more intrigued about things you never thought you would be, as far as read about or learn? Because I feel that way, and I'm like, I never in my wildest dreams would have want to go up and read or watch a documentary. I don't read much, but watch a documentary on stuff that I normally typically wouldn't. But I'm intrigued, especially culture and history has intrigued me pretty much. And back in the day, I didn't even watch TV. I just went outside and did my thing.
I think it's amazing to know and learn, like you talk about culture and history, like why people do what they do and where that came from. And, I was reading the other day that the Japanese have, like, they do their seasons week by week. And it's what's going on in nature is that season. I mean, that's so neat to me. Like, why do they do that? And how long have they done that? I mean, just different things like that. I think it's easy to get so boxed into like our culture and rodeo and roping and stuff. And to me, I'm really trying to challenge and push myself outside of that and get versed in that and bring it back into what we do.
That's me. And that's what I've kind of learned. I've been intrigued about stuff. I'm like, and it makes sense why they do it. And it's like, but we are so naive because we live in this little tunnel of the Western world, and and it's nothing wrong with it. We're a great community of people, but it's like there's so much people are missing just because that's just what they've always done. They're third generation, fourth generation. They've done the same thing that great grandpa and grandpa's done, which is nothing wrong with that because tradition's a big thing to us too. But there's so many things that can help your body and mind that it's weird to us as a general consensus of why would we want to study that? Right. Why would we want to talk about that? That's not us, And then what intriguing minds like ours, I believe we dig into it, and then we're like over here talking to somebody that would not have a care in the world about it and trying to convince them they need to study that. You need to read about that, and they're like, yeah. And then they do, and they're like, wow, yeah, that is cool because there's a lot of culture, like you said, and as I've studied some of them, it's like your different things that they do is so like, God, it makes so much sense, and it's so much simpler than what we do.
It's practical.
It's practical, and we beat ourselves over the head with things, and it's like, there's an easier way to do this,
Well, and I think too, like especially in any industry, change is hard, right? And we get in a pattern and we're comfortable with it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And so to me, it's like, what are we limiting ourselves to? If we don't know, like, could this help me? I'm trying to look at everything like everything's a good decision, whether it's a good outcome or maybe a challenging outcome. If it's a challenging outcome, how can I use it to learn from it? And if it's a good outcome, how can I use it to build on it? But it's like, what if we knew more that could help us instead of if we just stay in one place, are we limited there?
Makes sense. And that goes into your relationship, it goes into your work, all that's injected in every part of your daily activities and way of life, I guess to say.
Yeah.
So if you had to, you said your husband have been together 15 years and your best friend. For the young ladies out there, or just ladies in general, I think that's a big thing. I haven't been very good at being married, so I'm not good at talking about it. Not that I didn't try, but I think it's for the younger generation, understanding how to, because that's a big thing with me and my daughters. I feel like we're best friends. And I think they look for the same thing in who they're going to end up with one day. How do those dynamics, how do you get that in your head to know that I'm not going to get married unless it's like my best friend? And in the length of time it took for you to be convinced of that.
So for me, like, it's a total untraditional thing. It was a hard choice and a commitment that my husband and I both made. He's 30 years older than me. And so we made some choices that we thought benefited us that were maybe not appealing to everybody else. And I had to be okay with that, because it was definitely hard and against the society that we go in. a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, a lot of talk behind your back, you know. So it was a tough season for both of us, I think. But also the fact was for me is I was in a lot of bad relationships before then. And I didn't really know how or who I was or wanted to be. It was just, I was in relationships because that's what you did.
Sure.
Right? And you dated somebody, and if they messed around on you, well, it just happened. Right. It doesn't just have to happen. And to me, marriage and friendship or anything that you do is a commitment every day, just like anything else. You know, I laugh because the biggest thing I've learned is I'm so thankful we're best friends, because after you get married, you're then stuck with that person. Like, you're living with that person, you are co-abiding with them. You guys don't always like the same things. You got to live together. So if you're going to live together, you got to be best friends.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of things you look past for your friend that you wouldn't look past for somebody that you didn't like.
Right.
But for us, it was, for me as a woman, Raymond was my best friend before anything ever happened. For 4 or 5 years, we were just friends. And he helped me see, like, the woman who I was. And I remember him tell me one time we were having a conversation just like this, and he was like, man, you're so different when it's just me and you. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you don't put on an act. You're just you. Like, why don't you just be you? And I was like, of course, I was offended at that time. I'm like, what do you mean, just be me? Like, I am me.
Attitude.
But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I was a chameleon. I'd walk into a room, I can read the room, and I can be who I need to be. But I was very scared just to be me, because I didn't have confidence in that. I didn't know if anybody would like that. And I had never really tried it. And so that was what I tried to start doing, and he helped me to grow there. And then as I did that, I'm like, we became, better friends and all the things. But it was more to me of, this is who I want to spend my life with. This is what I want to do each and every day. And I want to be treated like this. And I think a lot of women today, or young girls, I don't think that they're treated the way that they should be treated.
Right.
But you've got to love yourself first before somebody else is going to love you back like that.
100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that is a big thing. People don't love themselves first, and then they're looking for love. But I feel like a lot of people have been a chameleon for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't learn it till I'm 47 years old. I didn't learn it till 10 years ago, probably, maybe less than that. But I just woke up one day and told myself, I'm going to walk in a room, I'm going to be myself. Because what I'm doing is it's almost so much anxiety.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And you chip at what you're about, but deep down inside in your core, you're chipping away at it. And I wish I would have learned it quicker, because I still have a lot of core in me, a lot of horsepower, but it's like I waste a lot of time on things, people, friendships, relationships. And I was just doing what I thought the world told me to do. And then once I started listening to myself, I have less people around me, but I also have a lot of people that want to talk to me and want to know how I transitioned out of that,
Well, and I think when you act superficial, you have superficial relationships.
Correct.
Right? And that was a hard lesson that I learned, is when I'm myself, even as scary as it is, like, are you going to be rejected? Are you going to be accepted? You have real relationships that way. People know when you're being real and you're being fake. And at the end of the day, for me, it was like, I want to have those real relationships. Instead of maybe having 20 best friends, maybe I have 2 or 3. But those people know me, and it's a real relationship.
Yeah. An older gentleman told me about 10, whatever that mark was. He said, a lot of your relationships that you won't have as you grow, because you're going to outgrow them, and they won't want to grow with you. And how powerful that really, or how true that really was, it was. I mean, I've seen it over my business career and everything else. It's just, it sucks, but you have to leave that behind. You can't cripple them along. And he also said that you can't fix everybody.
Yeah.
Because I'm bad about, I have a project. I want to fix somebody. You know what I mean? And because of them, when you're trying to fix them, all of it's leaching on you, and you already have enough on your plate. But you see so much good in them, you want to bring them above what their worth is in their brain. And that's a hard thing for me to pass up on. So.
It's hard for anybody. And I think, too, it's, we see the best in people, and we want to see the best in people, and we want to get the best out of people. But one thing that somebody told me was, you're going to have seasons where friends come and go, like you said, but I could kind of deal with that. I'm like, okay, it's just a different season. And it's not personal. Like, somebody told me they're not thinking about you. Like, not everybody is worried about you. I'm like, what do you mean? Are you sure? But it's not personal. Like, everybody goes through their own struggles, and before you can sit back and judge them, you got to walk in their shoes, and we don't always know what's going on.
Right.
So it's different seasons, and people are going to come and go, and not everybody has to like you.
Yep, agree with that. So let's switch gears a little bit. So at home, you train your own horses, or how does that work for breakaway?
I ride my horses. Raymond fixes my horses. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sounds like a perfect relationship already.
No, Raymond trains a lot of breakaway and calf horses. He's had a horse of the year. When he rodeoed, he made the final 7 times. He has had some amazing horses, and he's great with them. My patience is growing. It's still got a lot of room to grow. I thought it was like girl gets horse, girl gets on horse, girl wins. But turns out there's a little bit more to it than that. That's where my biggest commitment is, learning horsemanship and how to be a better horseman, how to learn and get the best out of my horses. But it's getting better. But Raymond he helps me a lot day in and day out. And most of the time when I mess him up, he gets on him and fixes them.
Yeah. I just recently, in the last 2 years, got back into team roping. And back 20 years ago when I was roping, horsemanship wasn't much of a thing. Mm-hmm. It was cram and jam. Mm-hmm. And the style, I more or less have to relearn everything. And it's so different. There's so much competition. Thank God for the 40-plus ropings. It's like, but it's just so different of all the things that have evolved in 20 years. How you handle a horse, and you want your horse to last, to burn it out and cram and jam on it all the time. So those dynamics, don't you agree, are so different? So
different. I think they've constantly evolved. And I think people nowadays are really trying to put themselves in the horse's shoes and see, like, if I was a horse, how would I take this? Or how are they thinking about it? And like really come down to that level. I was the same. Like when I was young and I was team roping, it was just like, let's run them, bring them back, and let's run them again, And so now, especially pro rodeoing, like, you're only as good as your horse is. And so if you don't have total confidence in knowing how that horse is going to score, how that horse is going to run, how they're going to set you up for success, or how you can set them up for success in different environments, you're not going to win.
Right.
And so I think it's trying to get the most out of your horse each and every day, and then for a long period of time. And then also knowing, like, not every horse is a fit for everybody. That was one of the things growing up that I thought, well, if I rope good enough and I ride good enough, like, I can rope on any horse. Not every horse fits me. Mm-hmm. And that was a hard lesson I had to learn, and kind of really having confidence in my style and how I roped and how I rode and what I need. It's not the same as every other breakaway roper, and that's okay. But it took me a little bit to learn that. I was like, I can ride any horse. Well, not every horse fits me, and I don't fit every horse too. So, but yeah, I think you've got to try to, get as much out of you can out of those horses and have respect from them. Because if they don't respect you, if they're scared of you and all the things, why would they want to show up and do their best? Right. So,
how many you run on the road with you?
I usually have 2 with me most times. I'd love to take 3, but Raymond says no because we have to take his bike. But 2, I think the hardest thing on a horse that in my opinion, is the road. It's not so much the runs, right. It's bouncing up and down. And so I've got 3 really good horses right now, and we just try to kind of switch them out through the year. Or if one needs to go home and rest, we send one home, bring one out. Man, I've had so many people that help me at home while I'm out there on the road that keep these horses in shape and keep them going and take great care of them. I couldn't do it without them. But we try to just swap them out or, come home ourselves. I mean, just kind of different routines for different horses.
I gotcha. How long are you typically on the road?
The last few years, we've been, we leave in June and come back in October, into September, 1st of October. This last year was a different year for us. I came home like the 1st of August. My husband had 2 surgeries last year. He had both of his ankles replaced.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very hard surgery.
Same time?
surgeries. No, one was in May and one was in October.
And say, whoa.
Bless it and bless me. Yeah. But, I mean, he was non-weight bearing for almost 8 months.
Golly.
And so it was hard. And then he's like, you're going to rodeo, which was a terrible decision. But we did it. And, I ended up in the top, I think I was in the top 40, not where I wanted to be, but we came home early just because nothing was working. I wasn't sharp. And we were just kind of struggling. So we came home. But most of the time, and we leave in June and come back into September, October. So we're gone most of the summer.
You do it, or do y'all do any rope horse for charity stuff?
I did one last year. Somebody asked me to ride at the RFA for charity. I don't do a whole lot of that just yet because to me, it's really hard for me to do both and ride both kinds of horses. Yeah. Like, I don't know that I'm at the level yet, or maybe it's just me personally, but when I ride a young horse, I rope different, I ride different, versus when I'm riding my good horses, like I'm going at them each and every day. And so for me and my goals, I've got some goals left that I want to try to get done in the pro rodeo realm. And when we get there, then I might evolve to the futurity realm and see where that takes us. But I'm a very atypical person, so I got to go all in on what I'm doing and try to focus on that. So we don't really do both. I'm more focused on rodeo runs and jackpots right now.
Gotcha. Y'all have such a short amount of time to pull this off, and the numbers keep going farther and farther down. Like, what do you think is going to be the number where it stops? Because every time I turn around, it's like, wow. I mean, I know I couldn't pull that off to save my life. It'd take me that much time just to get my rope out of my hand or out to swing. So
now, especially with like some of the AI technology that's come out, these girls are able to study these runs and like fine tune by milliseconds. Like whether it's where their horse is getting in it, where their rope is pulling off, where, they're literally fine tuning each and every piece of their run. I'm going to go out there and say this year, I think you're going to see a lot of 1.6s, 1.5s, even in long set or what we call long setups, like the outdoor setups. I think 2.2 and 2.3 are going to be last hole this year, just because of
crazy.
The horses are dialed in, they're scoring amazing, they're running, and they're dragging a break. And then these girls, like the range that these girls have, when I first started rodeoing, which I've breakaway roped since, fully since I was 23 years old, so for 12 years now, there was 30 girls that roped great. If you were a 2.2, you were like blasting one. I remember when, JJ Hampton was a 1.9, it was like, holy cow, she was just one. Now, if you're 1.9, you barely even get a golf clap. Like nobody's even, if you're over 2, it's like, you were too long, I went to the jackpot the other day and I was a 2.2 and a 2.3 and didn't win any money. They were like, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you for having me.
Thanks for the donation.
So I don't know. These girls are, and they're doing it at such a younger age. Like they're putting themselves in pressure atmospheres. Jill Edwards has that Something Special breakaway roping in Stephenville. And it's for 8 and under, 10 and under, 12 and under, 16 and under. There's over 80-something girls in the 8 and under.
Wow.
When I was 8 years old, on some horsepower. When I was 8 years old, like, I was still playing with mud, So they're raising these girls up to do it fast, and it's getting tougher and tougher every year. And I think that, like, this year at the National Finals, 4 out of the 5 gold buckles weren't there. Like, that's how hard the breakaway is right now. And so I anticipate it to continue to grow, to continue to change. All the people that pro rodeo laugh, they're like, you breakaway ropers, you don't ever turn out, you don't go home. After Cheyenne, most of the like atypical rodeo world will decide like, hey, do I have a chance? Or if I do, I'm going to go back up to the Northwest. And if I don't, like, I'm going to go home. Not us. We're like, we're going. Put us down. There's over 200 girls in the Northwest at all them rodeos. So it's here to stay. It's getting bigger and bigger, but it's going to get faster, and the horsepower is outstanding.
I wonder what's humanly possible to even do. I wonder if anybody broke that down yet.
I don't know.
between a horse and rider. You know, that's what I'm like. What is even possible? There has to be some kind of timeline in there of what it takes to get your. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and I think too, like the rules say in the WPRA that the neck rope has to pull off the calf before you can rope it, right? And I think we've seen a lot of that in the team rope, and like literally as soon as that neck rope's off, those guys are coming, like it's there.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of that this year. I think you're going to see, Daniel Lohman is somebody that sticks out in everybody's mind as a gunslinger, but these girls aren't just throwing it like searchers, right? They're throwing it with accuracy, and they mean it.
Yeah.
And I heard there was a little boy the other day that was a 1-3. And thank gosh they don't let guys rope against us, because that would be so hard. But I think it's just going to get faster and faster. The hardest thing is, to me, it's all human error, right? Like it's the timer and it's the flagger. And, it's kind of like, I relate it to the rough stock end of it, like where them guys say, they don't really want to be first because the judges haven't seen much, the horses and everything. It's kind of like that for the breakaway. You'll have some runs that are going, and then all of a sudden somebody's fast, and then all of a sudden everybody's fast. So there's a lot of human error that goes in it, and that's until we get some type of technology that's standard, that is like AI or something that's going to calculate how fast we do this or that. It's all going to be human error, and that's just part of our game.
Yeah. So because you have the guy running the timer, you have the horse, you have you, and then you have the calf. A lot of people don't realize that calf, you can only make it go so fast.
Right. You can't
So
control
your draw,
the calf.
Yeah.
Like I had a calf at Fort Worth that I roped, and he was stronger, was out in front of me, but as soon as I roped him, he kind of let up. I was 2-2, win third.
Right.
But like we don't have any control over the calf. I laugh. Matt Merritt's always like, there's 3 animals you can't, 4, he says. There's the girl, the horse, the calf, and then, the person that's doing the stopwatch. But it's crazy. It's been fun. It's one of the toughest things you have to go through mentally. You've got to take that chance every time, and you've got to be okay with whether you win or lose. You got to do it again the next time.
What are you saying to yourself when you're in a box?
Hopefully nothing. If I'm saying something, it isn't good. I used to try to think through my run, which very analytical, but I'm like, okay, I need to do this and this and this and this. And my husband, he was like, you think you can do all that in under 2 seconds? And I'm like, well, maybe, but if you're thinking, you're too slow. You're gone. You can't. That's why we practice, is to be prepared and try to react. So in the box, when I get in the box, I just try to remind myself what I want to do, and then go from there.
Any superstitious things like?
Oh my gosh, I hate that. Lord, do you know that every cowboy is worried about yellow, and the arena is yellow?
This is like
the whole thing.
I've been around this world for a long time, and this has been brought up from several people in the last 30 days, and I'm like, I didn't know. Yellow was a thing.
Yellow is a thing. Oh, and then so my husband and I have this argument. He's very superstitious. No hat on the bed, no yellow. You can't eat chicken. No nuts, which I ate nuts the day I won Cheyenne, just so Raymond knows. And I'm like, when you back in the box at the Thomas and Mack, the box pad is yellow.
That's what threw me off.
And he's like, well, you don't touch it, your horse. And I'm like, that's just, so to me, I'm just like, that is this biggest limiting belief. Like, you're going to let a color determine whether you catch or not? Like, one day I was like, somebody told me, well, I won in this shirt, so I'm wearing the same shirt, same socks, same underwear. I'm like, bless your hygiene and who's ever in your rig. Because if you keep winning in that thing, it's going to be,
rank.
You'd be riding on the tailgate. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not superstitious. It's hard in this industry not to let the people that are superstitious get on. I'm like, get back, Satan. Not today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm not superstitious about nothing, but it's even through different disciplines too. It's not just a rodeo guy. I mean, Don Boswalis is not, he don't wear yellow, don't like yellow anywhere around him when he's cutting. I'm like, I had no idea. He lights a certain amount of candles. I'm like, knowing it on, I would have never thought in my wildest dreams is that way. I mean, I've been in his little tent back there when he's getting ready to ride, and I knew there was candles in there, but I didn't realize what they were for. I thought they were
was it like an intentional thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Everybody's got their own.
And because it is like NFR is lit up, there's yellow everywhere. So
It's all yellow.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what is a dream you haven't conquered yet, or a goal, so to speak?
I would like to be a world champion breakaway roper. I think it's a very, very challenging goal. But I'd like to go all in and see if I could do it.
I think you can.
Thanks, me too. Hopefully. We'll see if we can get it done.
Do you think the NFR will ever have breakaway?
I don't know. I would like to say yes. You know, being a breakaway roper, I'm pretty biased and I'm pretty emotionally tied to it, right? Because I love breakaway and I feel like I'm one of the lucky girls that came in at a time when, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of breakaway roping and jackpots when I came in, but I've got to ride the wave of the women that came before us and help put all that stuff together, help get the rodeos, the amateur rodeos, the pro rodeos to start having it. You know, we had a jackpot in Amarillo that was one of the first jackpots that ever added $10,000 in the breakaway roping for 10 years. It was a 3-star memorial, one of the biggest ropings they had. You know, I feel like I've rode the wave of I came in at the right time. I've got to experience all the firsts, the American, the WCRA, all of those things. And now, you know, hopefully the Thomas and Mack is our next goal, right? And I know so many people that have, the PRCA, the WPRA, like there's so many people that have done so many great things for us, the rodeo committees. Like breakaway has grown so fast and in a short amount of time. You know, and we're women and we want it all and we want it all yesterday. You know, I think as a breakaway roper, I would love to see it there. If I take myself out of it and as a business person, I don't see why we're not. The numbers are there. The numbers are coming. You know, there, like we said, there's 80 little girls that are 8 years old and under that are going to come up. So for me, if I'm looking at a business mindset long term, hey, these numbers are there. We're going to have membership. It's going to be guaranteed. And I know there's no quote unquote guarantees, but you can kind of anticipate these little girls want a rodeo. You know, you see a lot of the youth events, breakaway roping, breakaway roping, breakaway roping. So I think it's here to stay. And the numbers are there all year long, right? These girls aren't going home. They're not turning out. They're showing up. They're showing out. You know, I was at Jasper, Alabama last year trying to make my second National Finals rodeo. And if you've ever been to Jasper, it is like you got to go through quite a few trees, some bloodhounds. I mean, it's, yeah. There was 40 girls in the breakaway, and there was 5 team ropers, 2 saddle broncs, 1 bareback. Like, the other events were pretty low. 40 breakaway ropers, you know, in Jasper, Alabama. Like, it's not even a dot on the map.
Right.
So, as a business, I don't know why we don't have it there. I think a lot of opportunities are there. But I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either. I haven't asked the person that knows yet. So I just always wonder because it's a big thing at a lot of the big rodeos. So it's like, why wouldn't it be? For
me, I think my biggest goal right now, while I'm still in it, you know, I'm 35 years old and I don't know that I'll ever get to rope at the Thomas and Mack. I hope it's there one day or wherever the National Finals is, if it's not at the Thomas and Mack. But there is so much money in breakaway rope and there's so many opportunities. There's opportunities for these girls to have a career at it. So for me, it's really focusing on the money right now at the finals. You know, we went from the Kimes Ranch $1 million breakaway roping to, I left there and won $10,000 and was disappointed. I mean, the top 10 girls, the last girl that was 10th place won $50,000. You know, some 2-3 girls won $95,000.
Wow.
So we have a roping like the Kimes Ranch $1 million breakaway that's huge, and then you go from there, and then girls go to their national finals, and the rounds are paying $6,000. Which I don't ever want to discredit that because somebody's worked hard to get us to the National Finals Breakaway, and it's $6,000. But to me, that's where my main focus would be: how do we grow there? How do we get our money up to where we're roping at $10,000, $20,000 rounds, $30,000 rounds someday? How do we grow there? It's not so much of, yes, the Thomas and Mack is my dream, but how can we grow where we're at? Because when I made the national finals in 2020, our round paid $4,800, and in 2025 they paid $6,200. So it's not growing that fast at the finals. So to me, we've got to have a bigger incentive at the end of the rainbow for these girls to make it a career, to keep going. And because you know as well as I do, it's all a wash, right? But how do you keep your money together to keep going is what it becomes.
You think it's entry fee base or?
I think it's a little bit of an unknown of we don't really have the answers. I think that's a association question. I don't know if it's a sponsorship deal. The numbers are there. We were a split entity between the PRCA and the WPRA for the first 5 years. And so there's a lot of different things behind the scenes that we don't know the answers to, but that our leaders have worked on our back end, right? They've done a great job. We've got to run it 5 gold buckles, all the prizes, all the things that come with it. Like, they've stepped up and stepped out for Breakaway Roping. But if I was going to work on anything, it would be trying to get our money at the national finals to where it's worth these girls going to 80 to 100 rodeos all year long to make the national finals.
Yeah. And it shows it in the horses too. Like I have some breakaway horses, and we've had to start younger and younger and younger finding something because they've become so expensive. Because there's not enough of them.
Oh, yeah.
You can't buy them at a 3-year-old no more unless you want to take a big risk with a big checkbook. And what was available 3 or 4 years ago is not there, and just because so many people are buying, kids and all the things, which is good. I mean, when you do have inventory for them to pick from, but when you're trying to build it, it's expensive and a lot of gambling.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk involved. And I think, too, that's where, for us, we don't really raise them. We try to buy them ready to go. And maybe that's, need to be finished out, green, ready to go, which is more expensive. But at the end of the day, for us, pro rodeoing at that level, you've got to know what you've got underneath you. You can't really take any chances because them other girls are going to show up on their best horses. And you're not going to beat them unless you have something to go with it.
I agree with that. If you had to define your grit with one word, what would that be?
I would say tenacious.
Tenacious?
Tenacious.
That's a new one. Very new one.
I know I've watched your podcast before, and I didn't want to come up with the same answer.
I don't remember that, but they're saying that we have used that before, but I don't remember that. I think I would remember something like that. Okay. Well, if you had to give advice to an 18-year-old or your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
I would tell her to just be you. To believe in you. God only made one of you. And he made you for a reason, for a purpose. And step into that.
And I think it goes a long way with a lot of people and a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures. There's only one of you. It doesn't matter how broken or messed up you are. Mm-hmm. You're fixable. Mm-hmm. And you'll be okay. But they don't make another one of you. So if you love that person, you love them. It's your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever. There's only one of them. Yeah. And I think if people would just learn that, they'd go a long ways. They always think they want to be like somebody else. No, you're special in your own ways.
I think we can definitely learn from other people, right? And take some of the things that you like from other people and add that to who you are too and what you do. But at the end of the day, like, we are all, created uniquely and wonderfully made. And loving that and embracing that, I feel like I don't regret anything I've ever done because that's where it's gotten me today. But I feel like I would be a lot more empowered had I done that a lot sooner. I
think we all wish we'd done that sooner. Well, Jordan, it's great having you on. What socials, what platforms can people find you at, and your podcast and all the good things?
I'm on all social media, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh. We're on YouTube. My podcast is called In the Loop Podcast. You can go find it on any of the Cowboy Channel platforms. And yeah, we're pretty much everywhere you want to be.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
coming on.
It was fun.
Stay tuned for our next Grit Branded podcast. Thank you.